Hi, fans of high-quality entertainment. So this tier list is for 1973, and I think I have just over 50 albums, and I'm thinking overall, for me, 1973 had a few more albums that I loved than 1971. And as always, I always say this recently at the start of every video, and some people don't even watch the video. They just look at the thumbnail and they notice one of the albums that they love is missing. I just did in my previous video, I did a kind of a mini rant about that. It's just kind of frustrating. People can't just enjoy, the albums that I know and give thoughts back to me. You can agree or disagree with where I rank them. That's fine. But just remember, it's my own personal opinion, just like yours. And if there is a great album missing from this year, I probably just don't know it that well, or maybe never even heard it. There's Stevie Wonder albums. Stevie Wonder is great, of course, but the only album of his I ever bought was Songs in the Key of Life, which was, of course, superb. And that's it. That's another little mini rant. Please be sensible in the comments section and just let me know what are some of your favorite albums from this year. It might not be in this tier listing, but you can let me know. And here we go. Okay, the Eagles on the Border. I've never owned an Eagles album, but I have heard it. They're very talented, great songwriters, but just for me personally, the music doesn't interest me enough to buy it. So I'll put it at the start of B. It's still, a very good album, of course. Lou Reed Berlin, one of my all-time favorite Lou Reed albums. It's S tier, which is superior. Can, Future Days. I actually just listened to that again last night. I love the album. I love not all, but a lot of the Can albums. I'm going to put that in A tier. John Lennon, Mind Games. I'm going to put that. Since it was remixed and everything, I have a new appreciation for it. It's still not my favorite John Lennon solo album, but I think it's excellent still. I'll put that in A but I like the Can album just a bit more. George Harrison, Living in the Material World. I have not heard the remix, so it would possibly go up in the rankings a bit. But for now, I'll put it in B, ahead of the Eagles. Deep Purple, Who Do We Think We Are? I think it's an underrated album. I haven't listened to it in quite a while, but that opening track especially, Woman from Tokyo, I think that might be, along with Burn, my favorite Deep Purple song. But like I said, just for now, I'll still keep it in B, but at the start of B. The J. Giles Band, Bloodshot, that's an okay album. I think they were stronger live. I'll put that in C. C is still good. It's a good album. The Who, Quadrophenia. I know a lot of Who fans would put that in S tier. But just for me personally, I love, Tommy and Who's Next more. I'll put that in A, but at the start of A. Sparks, A Woofer in Tweeter's Clothing, their second album. No, it's not S tier, but it's still a great, great album, and I love it more than Quadrophenia. I'll put it at the start of A. Ringo, with his third album, simply called Ringo. I feel that's his best album. I'm going to put that in A tier. just ahead of Mind Games. Genesis, selling England by the pound. Once again, I'm a pretty big Genesis fan, especially the Peter Gabriel years. But for me, it's not my favorite Genesis album. I'm still going to put it in A tier, but right just before Can. Yoko Ono, Approximately Infinite Universe. Yes, you can roll your eyes and say all she does is scream, but you haven't heard this double album because she actually sings on it, and I do like her vocals. I think it's a great album. I'm going to put that in A. Right there, just before The Who. Pretty Things, Freeway Madness. I love Parachute and their earlier albums, but their later albums I just did not like. I'm sorry. I'm going to put that in C. Procol Harum, Grand Hotel. I think all of those early Procol Harum albums are at least A tier. So I'm going to put that right there. Nope. Just, in between Can and Genesis. The Electric Light Orchestra, On the Third Day. I'll put that in B. I just prefer other ELO albums. Right there. 10cc, their debut album. My favorite is How Dare You. I'll put that in B. Right there. Now this one, I have a different cover, but that is Can Soundtracks, and I love it. I'll put that in A. I don't love it as much as Future Days. Right there. The Sensational Alex Harvey Band. Next. I prefer their later albums, but still a very good album. I'll put that in B. Right at the start of B. Queen, their debut album. Ooh. You know what? I love every song on that album. I haven't bought the new remix, but I've heard it online and it sounds very impressive. I got to put that in S tier. Black Sabbath, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. S tier, ahead of... I'm going to put it at the very start of S tier, along with Sabotage, probably my favorite Sabbath album. Humble Pie, Eat It. Now I've got, when it was released, the production, there was some screw up or whatever, but they did fix it with the new box set, and it sounds pretty good, but it's still a weaker album than some of their others. I'll put it in B. Right there. Grand Funk Railroad, we're an American band. I still prefer their earlier, heavier albums, but still, that is a great album produced by Todd Rundgren. I'll put it right there. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Brain Salad Surgery. It's the only album of theirs I ever bought. And I did really like it at the time, but I don't know. I'm just not into them. I'll put it in B. In between 10cc and the Eagles. Jethro Tull, A Passion Play. I have not heard that in years, but I remember really enjoying it. I'll put that in B. Right there. Steve Miller Band, The Joker. I bought that when it came out. Yeah. Just nowadays it's okay. I'll put that right there. The Beach Boys Holland. I love that album. They have seriously have so many great albums. I'm going to put that in A tier. That's how much I love the Beach Boys. Ahead of the Who. The Rolling Stones, Goat's Head Soup, I think is a little underrated. But still, I'll put it in B, but at the very start of B. Nectar sounds like this, a double album. It's not my favorite. It's good. I'll put it in B. Right there. David Bowie, Aladdin Sane. S tier. Oh, yeah, right there. Band on the Run, Paul McCartney and Wings. I love other albums more, but it's still S tier. Black Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, or Band on the Run. I gotta put Paul at the start. Cheech and Chong, that's the only album of theirs I ever bought. Lost Chinos or whatever it was called. I found it to be pretty funny, at least at the time. I'll put that in B. Ahead of the Eagles. Yes, Tales from Topographic Oceans. Even Yes fans, some think it's not that good of an album. I love it. It took a few years to appreciate it, but I love it. I'll put it... These are difficult. I'll put it right there. No, I'm going to put it ahead of Berlin. Okay. Bachman Turner Overdrive 2 with Taking Care of Business and Let It Ride and some other very strong songs. I'll put that in A. At the end of A. Nazareth, Razamanaz. Just a good band. I feel they're underrated. They always, in the early years, they were always putting out quality albums. Just before Jethro Tull. Black Oak, Arkansas, yes. High on the Hog. When I got that's my first album by them, and I was a huge fan. Not for long, but I still love this album. I'm going to put that... I'll put it in B. Just before the Rolling Stones. Or after the Rolling Stones, however you want to look at it. Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, Overnight Sensation is S tier, right there. The Kinks, Preservation Act 1, I just can't get into it. I'll put it right there. Paul Simon, There Goes Rhymin' Simon, one of his great albums. Got to be S tier. And like I said, I'm thinking of this as my favorite albums. I'm not saying that Lou Reed's Berlin is better than the Paul Simon album. I just prefer, for me personally, I prefer Berlin more. Alice Cooper, $1 Billion Babies, the one album I never really listened to, growing up. I had the earlier albums, but now I've got the remastered version, and I think it is excellent. I'm going to put that in A. Right there. Elton John, like I said, my older brothers were usually buying the Elton John albums. So I always liked his music and just wasn't a big fan. I'll put him in B. But I know a lot of you would put this album in A tier at least. Just before 10cc. Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy. It's just not my favorite Led Zeppelin album, so it's not going to be S tier for me. It's going to be A. Right there. ELO 2, I think, is a very underrated album. It's almost S tier. I'm going to put it in A. Just ahead of Yoko Ono. Bachman Turner Overdrive, their debut album. That's going to be in B. Very good album. Yoko Ono. Yep, she released 2 albums that year. Feeling the Space. I don't like it as much as Approximately Infinite Universe. It's a bit more poppy. I'll put that in B. Just ahead of Nectar. Another Elton John album I had at one point on vinyl. And like I said, it's S tier for a lot of you. Just for me personally, I'll put it in B. Right there. The Faces with Rod Stewart. Ooh La La. Great album. My favorite, though, is A Wink, whatever that's called. A Wink is Blind Horse, whatever it's called at the moment. I forget. Put it right there. Nectar, Remember the Future, is S tier. The first Nectar album I ever heard. Put it right there. Ooh, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. That's got to be S tier. It's not beating Paul McCartney, though. Loud and Proud, another solid Nazareth album. I'll put that in B tier. Just ahead of Razamanaz. The Byrds, their comeback album. It was okay. I'll put it behind the Eagles. Golden Earring, Moontan. That's A tier for sure. Right there. The Guess Who, number 10. I prefer their earlier albums, but it's still a solid album. I'll put it in between the 2 Nazareth albums. Trey Hombres, or however you pronounce it, ZZ Top. Very good, solid album. I'm going to put that in A tier, but at the end of it. Tyranny and Mutation, Blue Oyster Cult. That's S tier for me. I love Blue Oyster Cult. Ahead of Berlin, right there. Rick Derringer, All American Boy. I bought that when it came out. Right there. And the final one, Red Rose Speedway. For many years, I thought it was just a mediocre album. You know, listening to other fans and reading up about it. So I never really listened to it until the box set came out. And then it was like, oh my God, this is actually S tier, seriously. At least for me. just before, yes, Tales from Topographic Oceans. So that's my tier list for 1973. You might disagree with me, and that's okay, because we're individuals and we have different opinions on music. Get used to it. So yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 albums in S tier. Thank you for watching, and yeah, no albums in D tier. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.